Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Liz Live on this beautiful, somber Wednesday evening. Not really somber, but I'm taking the mood down to be a little more serious, a little more self-reflective instead of my happy rock music or my whatever disco club music I play for the intro. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Liz Live. I am Liz Statlander, marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor. And tonight is a special night for all the Jewish people out there, which obviously includes myself and my family and many of my close friends and loved ones, although certainly not everyone in my life who's important is Jewish. But I want to talk a little bit about what tonight is. And tonight is Yom Kippur. And what is Yom Kippur to the Jewish people? The word Yom means day in Hebrew, and Kippur means atonement. And atonement, for those of you who may not know, is asking for forgiveness from, in the light of Yom Kippur, asking for forgiveness from God. And it's the most serious of all the Jewish holidays. We call it the Jewish high holiday. And I love Yom Kippur, the idea of it, so much that I decided I wanted to do a show based on the ideas coming from Yom Kippur, the holiday, the Jewish holiday, because I think very often we're talking about how other people have hurt us and how we're angry at other people for things that they did. And I know that that's, a big part of, why a lot of people go to therapy, and it's a big topic on my show, no matter what we're talking about. But tonight, we're going to discuss how to look inward and really face ourselves and to ask for forgiveness from ourselves, from perhaps other people, and perhaps from God, depending on what it is you believe. So, again, for the Jewish people tonight, we are, a very solemn, very serious group tonight and tomorrow, where we are really focused on asking God for forgiveness, reflecting on the year that has just passed, and sort of doing some self-examination. How did we treat other people? Did we honor our parents? Did we treat our family properly? And of course, a lot of the questions that Yom Kippur asks are, very much based on Jewish values and Jewish belief systems. But of course, I think that the Jewish belief systems and values are very ubiquitous, and we all can kind of understand that no matter what religion we're coming from, or no matter what belief system we're coming from, that we all kind of share the same values in a lot of ways about being kind and treating other people, and how we treat other people, and honoring our parents and our elders and our families and our spouses. So the holiday of Yom Kippur is now until tomorrow at sunset, and it is the Day of Atonement, and that is, again, the holiday where we as Jews, many of us will go to temple, some of us will not. I'm obviously not in temple. I'm not, nothing against temple. I'm all for it. I'm just not a huge, I guess, practicing Jew as far as going to synagogue, although I'm all for it if that's what people want to do. But I do take this day every year and this night, and I do really use it as a time to do some reflection and think about how I've performed or behaved as a human being this past year. And I do ask God to please forgive me if I have hurt anyone, if I have, done anything wrong. And we also ask, Jews, we ask at this time that not only will God forgive us, but that he will also inscribe us in his book of life. And the way I was explained that as a child was that, I'm sure it's not actually what we believe, but that God has this big book, and if you go to temple and you ask for forgiveness from your sins and you atone for the bad things that you did, that God will write your name in his book of life, and he then after Yom Kippur seals that book for the year, and if you're in the book, you will be blessed by God. Now, I can honestly say that I'm not to taking that too seriously, but I think that any time that we are called either by ourselves or by our religious beliefs or our family to do some looking in the mirror and some self-reflection, that it's definitely worth it, because we can always do better, we can always improve. And so often in the culture anymore, especially in American culture, we're always looking to blame people, others, for what's going on, or blame other people for hurting us, or that, we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves, and, we can only do what we can do. And, there's this culture now in America that, we don't want to put standards that are too difficult on ourselves or on our children, and that's fine. But I do think that, again, accountability and individual accountability in taking responsibility for ourselves is really critical. And the person that we may be asking for forgiveness from may be from ourselves. It may be from people that we're very close to. It might be, again, from God, or maybe all of the above. And so I really want to break those things down and talk about them. And, I advertised the show as Facing Yourself, and I thought that would kind of be like a punch that would grab your attention, because so many people are so afraid of really looking in the mirror and thinking about and evaluating themselves. And even as a therapist, sometimes, we're trained to tell people, oh, don't, accept yourself, don't be so hard on yourself, and to love yourself. And while I believe in all those things, I also believe in being accountable for the things that we do that are hurtful to ourselves and to others. And, perhaps if you believe in God, ultimately, that are, I guess, a sin against God, or and how do you sin against God? How do you even do that? And I think that, again, I don't want to get too religious on this one, because that's not really what this is about. But I think that if you look at the Creator, at God, the universe, however you want to understand it, it's constantly giving to us, right? It provides water and minerals and sunshine and trees for breathing, and everything that we need is always provided to us by the world around us, by the universe. And I believe that when we harm a part of the universe, which could be, it could be anything from animals to the earth to polluting water, or not taking care of our bodies, and that in some way is, I don't want to say a sin, but is somewhat of a transgression in a way, or a disrespect of all of the gifts that we've been given and that we're constantly being given. And I think we forget a lot how the world around us is constantly meeting our needs and constantly providing for us, because we take those things for granted. We take it for granted that we have water. We take it for granted that we have trees and beauty around us so that we can breathe, and the ecosystem that works like magic, and everything just works in perfect harmony to keep us human beings alive and breathing. And we really forget that. And so I think that this is a good night on the eve of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, to really, no matter what religion you are, to kind of stop and think for a minute about our behavior, our thoughts, and the way that we treat things that continue to give to us. Okay, so why is it so important to look in the mirror? Why is it so important to look at ourselves, to look at the way that we think and the way that we behave? And, not just as a person who is passionate about the field of counseling and psychology and therapy and relationships, but also on a spiritual level, I believe that it's very important that we look at ourselves and not necessarily pass judgment, but sort of take an inventory and think about how we behave, for example, in a couple different areas. First area would be, how do we behave and how do we treat others that we are in relationships with? The people that are closest to us. Are we giving and thoughtful, and will we get out of our own way to be there for other people when they are in need or when things get uncomfortable? Or do we run away from that? And how do we determine what's good or bad there? Because it's very difficult to determine, because we're always sort of in this inner battle between our own needs. What are our own needs, and what are we capable and not capable of giving, and how much are we capable of doing and giving for others, and then ourselves. So there's this constant battle between ourself and others. Are we giving enough? Are we giving too much? Did we, say hurtful things? Did we make fun of someone we shouldn't have when it comes to our close relationships? I think that's sort of a good place to start. And again, there's that very difficult scale that tips back and forth between, have we given enough, and have we been thoughtful enough and considerate enough of how our choices, decisions, behavior impact other people? Or have we not? Or have we forgotten about ourselves and given too much to other people? So I think a good way to start sort of doing some self-eval is to ask that question. Where do I fall on that scale? Am I usually doing more for other people, or am I kind of self-centered and, only thinking about my own needs and my own self? And do I show enough appreciation and love to the people who love me? Do I have a nice balance in my relationships? Is it give and take, or is it always me giving or always me taking in my relationships? And I think when we start to look at that, we might find a lot of things. We might find that, well, in some relationships we're, way too giving. We don't think enough about ourselves, and we've hurt ourselves. And in other ways, we may find that, gosh, that decision that I made was really selfish, and I really didn't consider how it was going to affect my husband or my wife, my children, et cetera, et cetera. So, I work with a lot of couples and a lot of families, and, a lot of infidelity, a lot of really harsh words that are often said amongst married couples or, romantic couples, parents and children. And I would ask everyone for just a moment to stop and really think about how you've treated other people. How have you spoken to them? How have you shown them love, or have you punished them for not being enough to you, or because you didn't get your way, or you didn't get your needs met? And the way that we behave in our relationships is very much a reflection, as I always say, of ourselves, right? If you want to know about a person, look at their relationships, not necessarily who they're in relationships with, because that's not as important as the dynamic of the relationship, right? So am I in a very volatile relationship where I allow someone to mistreat me and I mistreat others? Am I in a relationship where I don't say anything and I let I let everyone, the other people always get their way and I get nothing? So these are all things that we can start to think about. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, we can all, kind of come to the decision that we could be better. and that we may have hurt the people that we love the most with harsh words, with, isolation, with silent treatments, with, talking badly about them. I mean, I don't think any of us could say, oh, we didn't do any of that this year. We didn't do any of that this year. You did. I guarantee you we all did. None of us are that great, right? None of us are. And if you look at it on a cultural basis, think about this year, how many of us have treated strangers online, how we have called people names and yelled at them and, said horrible things about them in a public forum because they have different political views or beliefs than us. If you really sit back and think about it, it's shameful. And on the eve of Yom Kippur, I would ask everybody to really sit back and look at yourself in relation to other people and try to, evaluate maybe what you did that you don't really like and make a commitment to do it differently moving forward. And I think that oftentimes it is the closest relationships that we tend to take for granted, and we tend to mistreat those people the most. Have people reached out to you for love and you have rejected their vulnerabilities? Have you mistreated your parents? Have you mistreated your brother or sister? Have you mistreated your grandparents? Have you not called your grandparents enough, or not done enough to say thank you to your own parents? All of those things in the family and all of that really becomes who you ultimately are. The way that you are in relationships is the only way that other people understand who you are. So it's a really good time to sit back and really evaluate how you interact with other people and how you behave and act inside your relationships, especially the close ones. So I think that's kind of the first thing we can do tonight, and all day tomorrow we have to think about it. Jews, we will be fasting all day tomorrow, and we would have started fasting at sundown tonight, which I'm sort of doing, unless you have medical reasons that you have to eat or take medication. But if you're basically a pretty healthy person, the Jewish religion asks you on Yom Kippur to stop eating at sundown. So many families will gather together tonight with each other and eat lots of food, and then when the shofar blows and the sun goes down, we stop eating. And the reason that I was taught that we do that as Jewish people is because the focus is supposed to be on self-reflection and asking God for forgiveness, and I guess suffering a little bit and sort of cleansing our bodies in a way, and just saying, okay, I'm going to do all of this prayer of thanking God, thanking the universe for always meeting all my needs, and I'm going to think about all the things I did that I'm not proud of. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I'm going to ask that God forgive me, and then after a fast of 24 hours, I'm going to get together again with my family, and I'm going to eat everything in sight. It's called Break the Fast. And, for the very religious people, this is the holiday. For the very religious Jews, this is it. And they will spend all night tonight and all day tomorrow just praying, for that forgiveness and for that self-reflection. And so I think that even though, I'm not incredibly, an incredibly, practicing Jew or religious Jew, I still take the holiday very seriously. And I think that it's a great opportunity for all of us to just sort of sit back and take inventory. Okay, so we started out talking about, how do we interact with our loved ones? How do we treat them? How do we talk about them? What do we say about them? What do we think about them? And relationships are really what life's about. If you don't have relationships, you're a very poor person. If you don't have a lot of close relationships, you're very poor. If you have a lot of loving relationships, you're very wealthy, right? Because that's all that matters in the end, right? You can't take anything with you when you go. So all that really matters is the love you give and the love you receive. And so if you're hurting people or you're being unkind, then guess what? Or you're being selfish, you need to look in the mirror and do a little shakedown of yourself and really face the music about what you did wrong. And once you face it, you free yourself. You free yourself. If you push it away and ignore it and you go on like you didn't do anything wrong and you didn't hurt other people, it's, that feeling, that horrible feeling isn't going away. It's going to turn inward and it's going to turn into rage. It's going to turn into depression, which can lead to addictions and many other horrible things and terrible relationships. So, consider this show this evening is kind of like a gift of a wake-up call. Like, hey, I'm going to look in the mirror on Yom Kippur, even if I'm not Jewish, doesn't matter, right? It's just the idea of it. Just the idea of it. So once we sort of do that and we take inventory of our relationships and all of that, then I think the second part that we need to reflect on, of course, is, how do we treat ourselves? Many of us treat other people much better than we treat ourselves. And I can say for certain that all of my clients, pretty much, most of my clients are amazing human beings, the most loving, kind. I'm so blessed that I really get the nicest people as my clients. And they usually come to therapy because they feel completely beat up and drained by relationships in their lives, by other people. And at some point, we have to take responsibility for that mistreatment of others. And we have to say, wait a second, I'm allowing other people to mistreat me all the time. I would never treat anyone else like that. I would never treat them like that. So why in the world am I letting somebody treat me like that? Why am I not treating myself with the same tenderness and the same kindness that I treat other people? And it's something that we really don't think that much about, right? We're not really taught, for whatever reason, in our culture to be self-reflective. It's not something taught in school. It's something that I think religions sort of graze over, but they don't really, facilitate lessons and learning about, how to become introspective. So if you don't wind up doing it on your own or having somebody in your life say, hey, you need to take a good look in the mirror and take a good look at yourself, or, your religion at some point doesn't ask you to do that, you're probably not going to do it. So I think that it's again, we're always on that seesaw between, others and self. And both points are important, how we treat others and how we treat ourselves. And one doesn't have to take precedence over the other. In fact, it's really wonderful if you can get them in balance and you can say, okay, I treat my family so well and I treat my friends so well, but you know what? I trash my body. I eat like shit. I never take time for myself. I run myself into the ground, and nobody in my life ever really reciprocates love, and I feel drained and I feel hurt all the time and anxious. I get so much of that in my office. I get so many of those people. So you people who do that, you have to take responsibility for that because you're allowing that to happen. You're giving yourself away, you're giving your heart away, and you're putting it in a black hole, literally. If you think about it, if you're giving kindness and giving support and love and caretaking to all these people in your life and you get nothing back, you are mistreating yourself, and you are putting all that love and that energy literally into a suction cup, and you're draining yourself, and that's very unkind to do to yourself. Another thing I see people doing, not very nice to themselves, is repeatedly putting themselves in situations that are destructive. And that can be, destructive relationships. That can be addiction comes to mind, um, you know, drinking too much, taking too many drugs, drunk driving, um, you know, being putting yourself in situations where you're always getting yourself into trouble, or taking risks that if they would not work out for you, that you could lose your own life, and that will in turn affect many other people. So those are the things that come to mind. There's so many different ways of mistreating ourselves, and I think that this is a huge problem. And I think we also confuse niceness and being kind and being nice to others with our self-worth, how we would value ourselves. And I've definitely been, I've definitely done that a lot of my life. So if I'm not giving to someone, or not taking care of someone, or not doing something for somebody else, then I'm dead. I'm not doing anything. I'm not a good person. And it took me many years to learn that, oh, wait, I can be, really kind to myself, and I can worry about myself sometimes, and that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. That means I'm being kind to myself, and I'm just as important as all the other people in the world. Not to be confused with self-centeredness and selfishness, which, we'll get into in a second. So just again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about self-reflection, facing ourselves, looking in the mirror, and really thinking about how we behave and how we respond and act to others in our close relationships. And then now we're sort of turning it on ourselves and thinking about, well, how do we really treat ourselves? Trashing our bodies, okay? What do I mean by that? I said that earlier. Well, trashing your body, again, it can be drugs and alcohol and all of that, but it can also be overeating, or not eating enough, or, eating till we, can't move every single day and we're obese. That's not healthy. That's not being kind. All of those things are self-destructive. And all of those things, when we are destructive to ourselves, or we're destructive to others, when we do those things, that to me is the sin, if you want to call it sin, or that is the, I don't know, the word sin sounds too dramatic and religious to me, but the things that we do that are unkind or veer away from virtue, when we behave in that manner, we in a way are saying, F you universe, or F you God, or whatever you guys believe in, creator, universe, it doesn't matter. However and whatever you believe is there, it's sort of saying F you to Mother Nature. Mother Nature's given us all of these amazing gifts, and the gift of life, the life force that makes these beautiful flowers grow, or these beautiful animals behind me have life, that makes our heart beat and our lungs breathe. Those are gifts. And when we do self-destructive things to our bodies, we're sort of disrespecting it, and we're saying, hey, I'm not going to do the middle finger, but you know what I mean. Screw you, universe. I don't care about the gifts you give us. So those are all things that I think are really, really important to sit back and think about, and really do some serious self-evaluation. And when you do that, and you face yourself, and you face your shortcomings, only then can you sort of, get lighter and make some changes on how you treat yourself and how you treat people in your closest relationships. The third part, I think, of the self-eval is the roles we play: mother, brother, sister, father, grandmother, grandfather, wife, husband, best friend, acquaintance, boss, coworker, employee, whatever. We all play all these different roles in life that we agree to, right? We agree to be parents, hopefully, or we agree to be, I guess you don't agree to be a sister or brother, but we agree to friendships, we agree to relationships. And with those agreements that we say, yes, I'm going to take on that role of, therapist, right? I had to say yes and agree to, all of our tenets, and to, beneficence and do no harm, and certain professional standards and ethical guidelines, and all of these things that I knew when I became a therapist that I was signing up for, and I agreed to those things. So I have to take on those responsibilities, and I have to act in those responsibilities with great care, and I have to take my role very seriously because I impact other people's lives. And I think that we all play different roles, and we also have to think, am I being the best parent, the best aunt, the best uncle, cousin, whatever the role is? Am I setting an example, a good example for my children? Am I setting a good example for my grandchildren, for my stepchildren, for whatever, whomever? Are we doing that? And I think it's really important because we sign up for these things. We say yes. Yes, I'm going to be a mom. Well, guess what? I mean, motherhood never ends. It really doesn't. It changes, but it doesn't end. Fatherhood doesn't end. So there's a lot of people out there who have walked away from their responsibilities as a parent, as a spouse, as, whatever. And I think when we're really looking in the mirror, this is another section. So section 1 we're evaluating is, how are we in our close relationships? How do we treat other people? Number 2, how do we treat ourselves? And we're looking at that. Now we're sort of talking about more of the relationship piece, but what roles and responsibilities have we said yes to and we've agreed to, but we haven't quite taken it seriously enough. And by not taking it seriously enough, we've hurt other people. We've hurt our kids and families and so on and so forth. And then I think on the even bigger spectrum that we all really need to hear this year is to treat strangers more, with more respect. And this is something I saw this year that was really disturbing, the way that we treated other people because of their political beliefs, because of their social media posts. I saw horrible things, and I still see it going on, where people are swearing at each other and calling people an idiot and this and that and saying awful things, and have a really negative, vibe in this country and on our social media platforms, because of all the craziness and chaos and the changes that have been going on in our country. And it's really shameful that, so many of us adults have behaved that way. And if you're one of those people who, called somebody, an idiot or this or that because they think differently than you, then my friends, you have some work to do. You have a lot of work to do. And I think that we have forgotten in some ways in this country, just manners and common courtesy. And it's sad. But we can change that. But none of this will change. None of anything that I'm talking about will change until we decide to see what's happening within ourselves. And it can be very difficult to do what I am proposing. I'm going deep, guys. This is no surface conversation tonight. This is really digging deep into ourselves, into that self-reflective mirror, and asking the question, have I been a good person? Have I been a good person? And of course, we could, split hairs and argue over what exactly that means, but we all know what that means, right? We all know the basic virtues, of kindness, of, owning the roles that we have agreed to, that we've agreed to. So if you bring children into this world, if you decide to bring children in this world, you are, in my view, responsible to your children forever. Forever. In different ways, at different levels, in different intensities, obviously, but you can't just have children and say that's it, right? And most of us don't do that, but some of us do. And some of us have abandoned our children. Some of us have, cared more about ourselves than our children. Some of us have been, amazing parents, and we've done everything for our kids, and we don't treat ourselves kindly. So I think that, as we look through this, turn the pages of the book of life of the past year, I think we all could do some improving. I think we all have some work to do. I don't think any of us is above, reproach. So as you're listening to me tonight, hopefully you're really thinking about this and you're really taking inventory. And, I get, from a lot of people who, are kind of in a depressed way, they'll say to me, well, who cares? Life is cruel, and why should I care about other people, or why should I care? And I don't know if I have a right answer for that, other than, don't be so feeling so sorry for yourself, and don't be so asleep and so blind to all the beauty that is around you and all the things you do have, because even in the worst times, we still have ourselves, and there are a lot of people that have it a lot worse than you do. Believe me when I tell you that. So there's always something to be thankful for. There's always a reason to be kind. And maybe the answer is because it's the right thing to do, because it's just the right thing to do, and doing the right thing feels good. It feels good. You know that it's right because you're putting a smile on somebody else's face, or you're making yourself feel good. Okay? So if you have taken inventory, or you are taking inventory during the show, and you're maybe thinking, you're writing things down, or while you may watch this show another time or in the future, and you're going through all of this, and you're kind of, well, you know what, I really blew this person off this year, and they tried to reach out to me, I should do better, I shouldn't think such bad thoughts, or I shouldn't talk behind people's backs, or I shouldn't say such mean or negative things about people, or whatever it is that you want to, improve on, or you want to work on. Then the question becomes, how do you ask for that forgiveness? How do you do it? Do you just say, God, please forgive me? Do you fast like the Jews, like we do? Do you go to synagogue, or do you go to church, or do you get on your knees and pray, or do you go to that person and say sorry, or do you say you're sorry to yourself? Saying sorry is a powerful, very, very powerful thing to do, and very difficult for many people. And I think saying sorry is so difficult for so many people because, they're afraid of, it's the ego at work. I didn't do anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not going to, admit it. That's a big problem, big problem. So we might be, afraid of facing ourselves and our own egos. And on the other side, we might be really afraid of the reaction of the other person if we go to the other person and we say, my gosh, wow, Elizabeth, I am so sorry for what I did to you. I am so sorry for the way that I treated you. I don't know what to say about it. These are not easy things to do. They're scary because you never know how someone's going to take it or react, or they might say, screw you, and all of that. So I think that we can say sorry in a couple different ways. I think if you are big enough and you have the courage to call somebody or write them a letter or something, and say you're sorry, I mean, that is the most beautiful thing, one of the most beautiful things that can happen in life. Because when you apologize, you don't know what kind of suffering the person on the other side of your, not so good deed, you don't know what that other person went through or what pain you may have caused them or how you maybe have made them feel. So it's very scary to call them up or face them in person and say, I'm sorry, because they might reject it. They might reject you. But I think that that's okay, because I think that the reaction, of course you want the person to feel better. That should be the motivation for saying sorry, not because it makes you feel better. So think about that. So if you have a genuine sorry, I would hope that the sorry is to the other person that you've hurt, not for your own selfish needs. So it takes a really big person to say, wow, I am really getting into the headspace of this person that I hurt, and I feel terrible that they feel so tortured or they have suffered at my hand or my words or whatever I did. And so for that, I'm going to go and I'm going to apologize. If you're going to apologize just because it's going to make you feel better, don't waste your time. It's not a sincere really a sincere apology. I guess it's a start, but it's not the kind of sorry I'm interested in. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm kind of tough, but I want an apology for it to be meaningful. That person who's apologizing has to be aware and understand what they did that hurt you. So a lot of times when people have come to me to say, I'm sorry, I always say, what for? I don't know what are you sorry because you hurt me, or are you sorry, what are you sorry for? Or what specifically are you sorry for? And that kind of, jars people. And that's how I know when people are being insincere, because they don't even know why they're saying sorry to me. So I'll tell them, like, save it. Thanks for the effort, but no thank you. But if it's a sincere apology, it's about the other person. It is not about you. If you're saying sorry to yourself, well, that's sort of between you and yourself, right? And I guess God Almighty or whatever you believe in, right? So if you have harmed yourself and you've done very destructive things to yourself, and or you don't treat yourself with the same love and kindness that you treat other people, then I would say that's a great time to have a conversation with yourself and, just, have the realization and just sit with those emotions for a moment and feel the relief, in a sense, that you acknowledge and you recognize how you have been harming yourself, and that you love yourself and you don't want to do that, because you are just as important as everybody else. And there's such levity and such, freedom in that, to be able to just say, my gosh, I've been hurting myself. I've been putting myself in these horrible positions. I did that to me. I've been putting horrible things in my body or my brain or in my life. I've brought horrible people into my life. I did those things, and I'm sorry that I treated myself that way. I'm sorry I did that to myself. It's a beautiful moment when you can have that with yourself. When you can have it with other people, it's incredible. When you can have it with yourself, it's incredible. The power of sorry is just huge when it's genuine and when it's real. And it can really help you sort of turn over another question. I'm reading something that says question. It really helps you turn around the other leaf on your life and start different, start new. So let me see, where's some questions, some comments. Hi, Robbie. Okay, so Catherine Marie, hello, Catherine. How about those of us who give and get treated like crap? Life has taught me how to grow a thick skin over the last 4 years. I'm done being the good person and then get treated like crap. Life is so much easier for me to ditch all the negative BS that comes my way and stay alone. I'm good with that. Well, Catherine, my love, Catherine, listen, sounds to me like, you know, somebody's hurt you recently. And so when that happens and we get really hurt, we do kind of like to isolate and protect ourselves and stay, you know, in our own little bubble, right? And protect ourselves from other people that could potentially hurt us. So I understand the feeling. And, you know, I know from our previous conversations that, you know, you're a giver and you put yourself out there and, you know, you haven't always gotten that back. So, I mean, I can understand isolating for a little while. But I would say, you know, at some point, and I think this is sort of connected to the show on today's Wednesday. So on Saturday, and I know you were there, Catherine, for that show, when we were talking about what Anthony Hopkins said, and we were talking about, you know, you kind of go through these cycles where you give and you give and you give, you get hurt, you isolate, and you kind of get angry. But then when you start putting that loving, giving energy into the right place, then, you know, you might not keep getting hurt. So you have to be very careful who you give your love to, who you share your love with, and because not everyone will reciprocate it and not everyone will treat you in the way that you treat them. And then, so those are the people that you would kind of want to cut out, you know, and we will talk more about that. And, you know, so being an enabler will drain us. Respect ourselves enough to walk away. Do what's best for you. Self-love. You know, definitely, I think that all of those things are important, but we have to take a little responsibility for that as well. So in other words, if we are an enabler, if you are an enabler, you have chosen that role, you have agreed to that, and you have done that. Doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't mean you owe anyone an apology but yourself. But we don't want to give up on other people either, you know. And again, like I said, it's that balancing act between self and others, self and others, self and others. You know, it's not an easy balance, but don't give up on people just yet. Robbie Fishman, hello. Saying I'm sorry are the three best words. Saying I love is good, but saying I'm sorry is bigger. Plus, it means I love you also. Great point. And to answer the other question, yes, that is my fiance talking here, Rob Fishman. He makes a great point, and that's a lesson that I learned a lot from. Rob is very good at saying he's sorry, and so he's right. When you are able to say I'm sorry, you are saying I love you. You're saying I care, because if you don't apologize and you don't ever say I'm sorry, then that sends the message that you don't love someone or you don't care. And sometimes in relationships, especially romantic ones, we all wind up apologizing for things and we didn't even know what we did. I'm sure Rob's done that a couple times with me. And I know I've done that a couple times with you. So sometimes you just have to say, I'm sorry, because the other person is hurt and you don't want them, you want them to know that you love them, so you apologize. But that's more, you know, in a romantic relationship setting, in a couple setting. But great point. But what I'm really trying to get at tonight is, you know, this big picture of self accountability for our romantic partners, for our families, for our you know, coworkers, our society, our culture at large, and of course for ourselves. That I think Yom Kippur is a wonderful opportunity for us to all sit back and do some evaluation and some reflection. And maybe, Catherine, for you, that evaluation might be, I really owe me an apology because I have, brought, not on purpose, but I have, maybe brought the wrong people into my life, or I haven't been kind enough to myself or protective enough of my heart, which is what I'm sensing is probably happening with you, Catherine. And so you're like, I'm just going to hide away from everybody because everyone's going to hurt me. But everybody won't hurt you. I think anytime we get close to people, we'll hurt each other, just because the emotional stakes are so high. But not all people will hurt you. It's just really hard to find good people who, really care. And that's part of our work. And all of the things that we agree to and sign up for in life, we have to take on a lot of responsibility. So I want to make one more point before we wrap it. Okay. So, one of the big values in Judaism, and I know many other religions and many other cultures, we're not, the only ones, but a big theme in Judaism is honoring your parents and your grandparents and your blood relatives. And, obviously you guys know how I feel about that, especially lately. I'm more about not blood, but bond, that blood is not necessarily thicker than water. And, so many people have been, hurt or betrayed or abandoned by parents and so on and so forth. But if you haven't been, and you do have your parents in your life, don't forget to honor them, even if they're not alive. My parents are deceased, and I try to honor them every day. I try to honor them by doing things that I know that they would want me to do, or doing things that I know were important to them. So we can all do those things, and I'd love to hear other ideas, but honor your parents, honor your grandparents, people who have taken care of you. And maybe it's not a parent or a grandparent, maybe it's it was a neighbor or a step parent, or whomever, whatever. But it's a big theme in Judaism to honor thy parents. It's also a big thing to honor thy spouse. And I could spend a whole nother show. What does that mean to honor people? But again, I think that, just thinking about how we have shown gratitude, or if we have shown enough gratitude, or if we've been thoughtful enough, or how do we talk to our parents? I know a lot of people who, can be really nasty to their parents, especially as their parents age, because, your parents can become, kind of difficult sometimes, or demanding in their old age, and we get frustrated. And once in a while is one thing, but, this is a special time and a special night for, not just the Jewish people, but for everyone to sit back and do this inventory and face yourself, for better, for worse. And I promise you that if you really sit back and do this, and maybe journal about it, or write a few things down, and then make some plans of action, like, okay, you know what, I really, just as an example, I really hate the way that I treated people on social media this year. I was telling everybody off and calling them names, and I got too into the political thing, and I'm gonna maybe send an apology, to someone that I did that to, or I'm just not gonna do it anymore, which is probably the best way of saying I'm sorry, right? Not repeating the action, which is hurtful. There's a lot of ways you can say you're sorry, and there's not always the exact right opportunity that we want, or that we're looking for. Sometimes I talk to clients who are parents, and, they look back and their kids are grown. They say, I don't think I was the best parent. I think I really fell short, on this point or on that point. And, it's never too late to acknowledge it. In fact, I do family sessions where I bring adult children and parents that are harboring so much, pain towards each other for things that happened, 15, 20 years ago. And it's beautiful to watch when we get that resolved. And sometimes I have to ask people, can I get a sorry? And don't be afraid to say you're sorry, because I think it's actually really empowering that you can put yourself out there and be vulnerable and say, I messed up. I really made a bad decision. I really behaved badly. I really behaved poorly, and then try not to do it again, right? So I wish everybody the opportunity and the time to self-reflect tonight and tomorrow on Yom Kippur, which is our most special, serious holiday on the Jewish calendar. And again, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not. Just matters if, you do the work. That's what counts. And do the work to be a better person and to be respectful of, other people and everything that we're given around us. And I think that if we can do those things, we're in good shape. We're in really good shape. And of course, if you need help doing these things, you can always call a therapist, right? You could always call me or any therapist you choose to be able to sit back and say, hey, I need a little help facing myself. I'm embarrassed, or I'm ashamed. I've done these things. I want to be able to let go of some of this stuff. And it's just the most wonderful, enlightening thing to be able to do it. And I have more to do. I'll be doing that tonight myself and tomorrow, and asking, for forgiveness from God, and thinking about, if there's things I want to do better. And I hope that you all will join me in doing that. And remember that the special people that we have in our lives are gifts and blessings, and let's not mistreat them or forget that they exist or whatever. And let's see where it takes us on our journey here at Liz Live. We're always on a journey. And I see one of my favorite people. Hello, Asha. Thank you. And happy Yom Kippur to you too. Even though I know you don't celebrate, happy Yom Kippur. And let me just wrap up with Catherine. Let me see. I've always honored my parents. They were wonderful. Yes, I know you've always spoken so highly of your parents, and that's awesome. I love you too, Ash. And I miss you guys. I miss you so much. But I thank you all so much for watching Liz Live tonight and being with me. And I wish you all, if you happen to be Jewish and you happen to be fasting, I wish you an easy fast, and I wish that you are inscribed in the book of life. And for everybody else, I wish you the same. I wish you the same, that may God be with you and bless you and all your loved ones all year long. And I will see you guys, what's tonight's Wednesday night, so I will see you guys Saturday morning. And that's it. Have a great night, everybody, and thank you for watching Liz Live.